Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining for the first time, I appreciate your time as always. Listen folks, these are amazing times across the region. The shift in North America has made the continent of Africa to wake up from sleep. It is interesting for us to dive into the recent interview that the United States of America CENTCOM commander Michael Langley gave in the country of Kenya. If you look at that particular cleanup, Mr. Langley failed to deliver, he failed to recognize, he failed to completely give the perspective on the reason why. His fundamental disgraceful comment that he made regards the country of Burkina Faso that never sat well globally. If you look at that particular interview, it goes back a long way to say that the continent of African nations cannot to an extent make their own strategic decision, select partners that fulfill their own particular goal. Across the discussion, Mr. Langley failed to identify the internal challenges, the historical formation of the country of Burkina Faso, and more importantly, at no point in that discussion he ever raised the concerns regards the colonial relationship that the country of Burkina Faso have had with France for several years. He never mentioned the failure of France's engagement in that region regards the Operation Barkhane and Serval that yielded no particular success in several ways. According to Mr. Langley, Burkina Faso faces continuous threat, which is something which, of course, there is a challenge regards to the particular region, but for Mr. Langley to come out clear and continue to nail down and point that the region is based on insecurity, no particular fundamental development, and no issues going up, it goes a long way to point out that the narrative regards to the Sahel, the challenges that the Sahelian country face, and most people will wonder why they behave in this way, is as a result of the particular concerns that the Sahelian countries have been facing over the decades and centuries. And Mr. Langley still failed to understand, to uncover the reason why he made such a fundamental blunder in the United States of America Senate. Make no mistake, the country of Burkina Faso have come to the realization that it will select partners according to its own will, and the geopolitical partner like the United States of America that was disgracefully kicked out from the country of Niger failed to understand the main concern why they were kicked out from the country of Niger was as a result of the condescending approach, the paternalism, and more importantly, the disrespectful nature of how they perceived the country of Niger's government at the time. Make no error, Burkina Faso recognizes the threat they are facing at this time, and for Mr. Langley to have the platform in an African country to clean up the mess that he made in the United States of America Senate, and he failed to grab that opportunity, it goes a long way to the statement we've always been saying here that the United States of America's strategic interest in the continent of Africa will always be based on US's interest. That interest does not feed into the current difficulties and challenges that the countries across the region are facing. Mr. Langley was asked that are you ready at this moment? This is an opportunity for you to clean up the error, the mistake on what you said in the United States of America that caused commotion globally. Instead of Mr. Langley to went ahead to clear the air, he went ahead and said this.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel. And there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkina government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow, and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
In the past, it's always been perceived as if the continent of African nations cannot make their own decision. We've always said that each time an African country make their particular choices have been perceived by their geostrategic partner as being influenced by Russia or China. Make no mistake, African nations, especially those in the Sahel, have some fundamental difficulties and challenges, and they do understand the global economy is changing. The region at the moment is changing, a burgeoning population like we've always pointed out, and the Sahel, looking at its natural resources and rich in minerals of all kinds needed for global development and manufacturing. They've come to the point that a number of leaders that have ruled this region failed to understand the fundamentals of the local people, and for that reason it has caused a number of implications that have led this region to where it is today. But Mr. Langley to come out and fail to understand the difficulties that are currently at the moment, and to an extent to see this region as a region that cannot attract investment, development and growth, and perceive it to be one of the most dangerous regions in the world. I feel that the particular collaboration that these countries were talking about may not come from the United States of America. Let's play this clip.
All right, so it's about countries perhaps taking up their own autonomy. General, let's talk about countries taking on their own autonomy. You are on African soil, not for the first time, but this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traore, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that is going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traore took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to, they're still on warfighting footing. It's just going to take more resources.
If you look at Mr. Langley's posture, it was combative. It was not strategic. He's a military man talking. This message will go down to the country of Burkina Faso from a condescending perspective. These are difficult times in the country of Burkina Faso that is at the moment is on high alert in a number of areas. This interview does not change any particular communication style. It still shows where the United States of America stands. The region across the Sahel will shape what happens in the continent of Africa. These are difficult moments with regards to why countries are making individual choices. From the international perspective, it's always perceived as these countries are rebellious, these countries are looking for coups, but no one talk about their global interaction, the importance in terms of what's been done to them over the centuries, considering at the moment they were lambasted by ECOWAS, the regional organization that has no particular focus in terms of their growth and expansion, and to face the current challenges in the region. The European Union sanctioned the countries across this region. We saw the United States of America did the same. We fail to always look at the issues, and for Mr. Langley to come out and fail to understand that his comment talking about the natural resources on how the country of Burkina Faso uses resources, it's of no business of the United States of America on how these countries will function. This is the problem why African countries are pushing back with regards to this global collaboration and narrative. Mr. Langley failed to diagnose the real issue in the region and focus on areas which are not relevant, putting the United States of America's interests first. Let's play this clip.
And what would America, perhaps Africa, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is Africa prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and we'll just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just an African Lion over in Morocco. A number of countries working together to be able to do this. Is Burkina Faso
invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes. They were invited to African Lion in Morocco. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, we're moving forward.
Okay.
We're moving forward because we have that shared goal of defeating terrorism.
All right. Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of Africa as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers. What would you respond to that?
I respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that do that. I'm going to even bring it up. We should have even already know, okay? But I'm going to even bring that up.
Okay.
We respect the sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions of who they choose as a security partner. And then we measure the common denominator that's keeping these countries across the Sahel from progressing forward. In 2050, You know, the largest workforce on the globe is going to come out of the continent of Africa. The youth need hope. They need peace and stability so they can hit their potentials. That's a long-range goal of AFRICOM as we look to help these countries set those conditions for stability and security so prosperity can be presented to all the populations and the youth. Pan-Africanism is real and it's strong, and there's an opportunity to come up on the global stage, and this continent can do it. That's what we really envision.
I think it was a total failure to clean up the mess that he caused in Washington. It is important to know that this interview will go across the region, will be received with mixed feelings. It sent mixed signal. The United States of America's drone base in the city of Agadez that was dismantled as a result of this particular negotiation and collaboration that failed woefully. It's important to know that other partners are watching this. These are critical times across the Sahel region, and the Sahelian countries have decided to go it alone and form the Alliance of the Sahelian State. Why? Because they understand the threats that they are at the moment, and recently they formed a 5,000 strong man force to combat the current challenges that they are having in the region. And for the United States of America to basically see them as countries which are not so safe at the moment based on Mr. Langley's own perception, and more importantly, he went ahead to acknowledge some development that are going to the country. However, he also went ahead and said that despite the coming of the new leader of the country of Burkina Faso who is trying to stabilize things, that nothing has improved. I think these are fundamentally wrong in terms of the narratives that we see other geostrategic partners are pushing out. The continent of African nationals have risen. They are asking questions from their government. They do understand the implication and importance of their natural resources on where it should be at the moment. And for Mr. Langley to be given this particular chance to clean up the air and make it clear where the United States of America stand in terms of engaging the continent of Africa, specifically the countries of the Sahel, he failed to make that case. Let's play this clip.
So you're not concerned about China and Russia expanding their military and economic influence across the continent?
We are concerned about it, yes.
What about it concerns you?
Well, you know, their influence. Their influence may not be looked upon as being a positive influence.
For who? For America or for Africa?
Well, for Africans, okay? And then, so Americans have that in mind, that for the African people and across all countries, be able to hit their maximum potential and independence and sovereignty and also freedoms by rules-based international order. Being able to get on the global stage and take a leadership role and provide for the people in peace and stability. Some of those aims are not the same as the approach of those other countries on the global stage. So that's my perspective.
Do you have a counter strategy?
Do we have a counter strategy as far as to
China, Russia, their presence, because you say it doesn't align with the shared values?
Well, what we watch is the continent of Africa does not need to be militarized, let's put it that way. Does not need to be militarized, and so we watch. As far as security agreements and what does it mean? Is it really for the stability to fight the threats of a African country, or is it for them and their ability to establish a global hegemon of basis? That's what concerns us.
All right. We'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you very much,
right.
General Michael Langley. Thank you very much for speaking with us on Citizen Television. We appreciate your time.
I want to thank you for joining. If you are watching for the first time, we encourage you to watch other informative videos on our YouTube channel. At this time, African nations have said we want to work with every partners across the world, from Russia, China, United States of America, fringe powers across the European Union, emerging Turkey, India, Middle Eastern partners, and some big players across the continent of Africa. However, they will not tolerate any countries coming to tell them, to impose on them, to give them directions of who to work with and who not to work with. Africa is asking questions, is open to work together. The security challenges in the Sahel are real. The countries of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger understand that, and ECOWAS could not provide them that particular cover. That's why they formed a whole different team to make sure they can engage on the particular collaboration. The country of France failed hopefully in the continent of Africa, looking at the strategic relationship security-wise in the Sahel region. African nations, especially those in the Sahel, will redefine military collaboration in the region, whether the United States of America likes it or not. Mr. Langley failed in the African continent to make sure that he can put the case to rest. It gives a clear picture that the United States of America still don't see African nations, especially those facing incredible threat, as clear partners that they can work from a win-win aspect. The conversation about the natural resources and gold that came out from Mr. Langley's mouth was shameful and could not be picked up as a particular aspect of his own particular narrative. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button and have a good day. Bye-bye.